Hey friends, I'm Christy and you're listening to Rock the Damn Boat. If you've ever bitten your tongue to keep the peace or said yes when every part of you wanted to say no, this one's for you. We're diving into the messy, real stuff that people pleasers like me have spent years avoiding. It's time to have the hard conversations, shake things up, and learn to stand tall, even when it makes waves. And if you were watching, I am on location. I am helping out a friend this weekend. And so, in the quiet space before opening, I thought I would record my Sunday shorty. There's a lot on my mind this week around relationships, and not just love relationships, partner relationships, but also friendships. My friend texted me recently, and it had been a while since I had heard from her, and this happens a lot. Actually, she was the one that suggested this become a topic, but imagine this. You text a friend and you don't hear back, and you build this story up in your mind that you have done something to offend them. And so time goes by and you're like, gosh, that person didn't text me back. I must have done something. And you start going through this list of reasons that you are not hearing back from your friend that have to be your fault. Or, as in the case with this friend, time goes by and your friend intended to text you back, but they were in the middle of something else when they got your text. And so time goes by and they now are the ones attaching to the shame, and they're thinking, gosh, it has been so long since my friend texted that I'm just embarrassed to text her back now. Like, how do I explain these months that have gone by that I didn't return that text? I have been on the receiving end of both of those. I have texted someone and not heard back, and automatically jump to all of the reasons that they are no longer my friend and have gone radio silent on me. And I have also had friends go radio silent and they didn't want to reach back out to me. And so then they were grateful when I finally reached out and said, hey, I'm just concerned about you. I hadn't heard from you in a while. What's going on? Is there anything I could do? And then usually, as in the case with this friend, it was like, oh, I let so much time go by that I was embarrassed to reach back out. I actually have had that happen with two different friends in the past few months. And so when my friend explained to me where her mind was at, I said, well, don't feel bad. This actually happened to me with another friend a few months ago, where she finally left me a voice message and said, I'm really embarrassed that I didn't know what to say. And it made me very interested in bringing this subject to light. And especially, like I said, my friend was like, hey, you should do an episode on this. And so here we are. So I started looking at what goes on in our minds when this kind of situation occurs. And as people pleasers, especially, it can cut pretty deep. Whether you are the friend who didn't hear back, or you're the friend that's hanging on to shame because you haven't responded to somebody in a long time, it works both ways. And it can definitely make us uncomfortable in both situations, sending and receiving that communication. I started looking into, why this might be. And of course, I am not a therapist. I am not well versed in the inner workings of the brain, but I did find a little bit about theory of mind when it comes to trying to really just break this down into very basic layman's terms. There was an article from the Social Learning Lab at Stanford, and it was addressing it as it relates to children. Imagine this. You've got a child who comes into a room and sets a candy bar on the table, and he leaves the room and he comes back in and he's expecting the candy bar to be on the table. Well, imagine while he's out of the room that someone else came in and put the candy bar in a drawer underneath the table. So when he comes back in and his candy bar isn't there, he's thinking, well, the candy bar is supposed to be on the table. Now, if you've ever seen, I know I've seen this in a scene from a movie, and you may have also seen kids just do this in general. Imagine there's this group of children watching this scene unfold, And the kid is sitting there looking for his candy bar everywhere, and the whole group of children is going, "It's in the drawer." And of course, they all know where it went because they're watching this other girl come in, put the candy bar in the drawer. We assume that we know what other people are thinking, or that they know what's going on in a certain scenario. And so theory of mind says that group of children who's observing this assumes that John knows, when John was the name of the kid in the example, assumes that John knows that the candy bar is in the drawer. But he doesn't, because he wasn't there. Theory of mind talks about the assumptions that we make about what other people are thinking, or even what they know. Now, obviously, that gets far more complex when we are talking about adults and the things that we assume that we know about what other people are thinking. Theory of mind is said to develop around the age of 5, and we start to understand how to quote unquote read other people. So interpret social situations that mean that we know what the person might be thinking. In neurodivergent brains, especially, there's a certain chain reaction of events that may have a little bit of a wrinkle. Certain chemicals don't fire, or certain parts of the brain don't respond in ways that a neurotypical brain would. Now, who they studied to figure out what's neurotypical versus neurodivergent, I don't know, but that's probably a much larger topic for another day. But in a neurodivergent brain, there are certain things that don't happen that lead us to ruminate or attach shame and guilt to reactions. In, say, a neurotypical brain, that person will forget about that exchange and move on with their lives and text you back when they have a chance and not have taken it so personally. But in people pleasers, in highly sensitive people, in neurodivergent brains, we attach to that and we ruminate and process that situation and that exchange for far too long, in the sense that it causes us stress, maybe higher cortisol levels. So there is a physical impact to that. Chronic stress is related to the ways that we process things in our minds. There's a mind-body connection that is undeniable and unfortunately unavoidable. So how can we learn to not people please or not attach shame in those situations? That is a big question, and one that I struggle with often. One of the ways that is recommended in an article in Psychology Today is to pause and work to remove the fear from that situation. Now, again, easier said than done. But perfect example, this friend of mine that I reached out to, who was glad that I did. I was at first thinking that it was odd that she hadn't texted me back. And then I thought, well, maybe I upset her in some way. And then I let that go, and time went by and I forgot all about it. And then something reminded me of her. And so I texted her and said, "Hey, I was thinking about you. This thing reminded me of you." And she was so grateful that I had reached out, because at that moment in time, she was listening to my podcast. So, what are the odds? If you can let go of any fear and shame, so I detached any guilt or concern that it was my fault that she hadn't responded, and I reached out. And what's the worst that could happen? If your friend is pleasantly surprised by you reaching out, then you might rekindle your friendship and start where you left off. And if that person is upset, maybe it opens the door to be able to have a conversation about it. Or maybe in this instance, it was just an innocent case of way more time went by than what we thought. If you are finding yourself in a situation where months have gone by and you haven't reached out to a friend that you really didn't want to lose that friendship with, then here are a few tips from socially.com. You can start by reaching out and saying, "Hey, I know it's been a long time." So acknowledging the time gap. And you don't even have to say sorry. That is something that a people pleaser would say. So, not necessarily apologizing, just acknowledging that it's been a while. Hey, been a long time, thinking about you, wanted to say hello. Or, as it was the case with me, hey, saw this, made me think of you, wanted to see how you were doing. That's another piece of it. You can focus on them. Ask a question that is pertinent to their life and something that they might have a reason to respond to. I saw this Facebook post and congrats on your son graduating from high school or college, whatever it is. Offering an extension of well wishes can always make somebody feel good, and especially to know that you were thinking of them. Shift from shame to connection. I feel like this is a really good tip. It says shame thrives on secrecy while connection kills it. Realize that true friends are happy to hear from you. And if you make that gesture and you do not hear back from that person, let any shame or guilt about that go. We have to remember, going back to theory of mind, that we can't assume that we know what that other person is thinking. They could have major events going on in their lives that we are not privy to that could be impacting their state of mind and their ability to connect with the outside world. And you are not necessarily the root cause of that. You do not have the ability to connect with them at this moment through no fault of your own. So remember that. If you are in a shame spiral because you couldn't connect with a friend right away, because you let time go by, because you weren't sure what to say to them, make an attempt to reach out. And if it doesn't go your way, it's okay. You have created closure that you may have needed for that friendship. If it is a friendship that has run its course, know that those things happen, that friendships do run their course. And if it's meant to be, if you truly have created a special connection with that friend, it will last. You know that there are friends that you can meet up with after a year, 2 years, and it's as if no time passed at all. Those are the truly valuable, authentic friendships. And I hope that you find those in your lives. Adult friendships can be very similar to a love relationship. They can take work and that desire to keep the connection going. And if that doesn't last, then it's okay. Maybe you are in a different level or stage of life than that person was that you were friends with for so long, and you can make new friends. I would love to see you on a retreat, because some of the best friends that I've made are friends that I have gone on retreats with. So if you'd love that in-person connection, then check out thrivewithchristy.com/retreats. And we have April in Texas and then June in the Tahoe area. So I'm excited to help create connections, hopefully build some lifelong friendships. And that's Sunday Shorty. Let the shame go. Reach out to your friend just to say hi for no reason. Thank you so much for listening. You've been listening to Rock the Damn Boat, a podcast produced and recorded by Christy Hughes. You can follow, subscribe on both Apple and Spotify, and your 5-star review goes a long way. Thank you so much for your support of the show.